Today is Halloween, and I'm here to talk to you about a very scary subject. A fear that many people have. A fear that may be affecting how you feel and act without you even realizing it. A fear that might be keeping you from having deep, meaningful, healthy relationships. I'm talking about a fear of abandonment. Well, that was fun. Hi, I'm Sarah. I hope I didn't scare you too much. When we think about the fear of abandonment, we think of someone desperately begging and pleading their partner not to go because they just can't stand to be alone. That can be exactly what it looks like in some cases. But fear of abandonment can show up in many different ways, including the exact opposite of that expression. Like I said, it's possible some actions of yours are unknowingly coming from a fear of abandonment. Awareness is crucial for overcoming that fear. So in this video, I'm going to discuss different root causes for the fear of abandonment, different effects it can have, and I'm going to give you some tips on working through this fear so you can have healthier, close relationships. Some videos of mine focus on borderline personality disorder specifically, but this is not one of them. Intense fear of abandonment is often a core component of BPD, and frantic efforts to avoid that abandonment is literally one of the diagnostic symptoms. But like other symptoms of BPD, this is something that people without BPD can also experience, just usually in a less extreme form, and of course without enough other symptoms to meet the diagnostic criteria. So in this video, I'm speaking more generally about the fear of abandonment, and I'm focusing on its effects in romantic relationships, although it can show up in other relationships as well. So what causes fear of abandonment? Often, but not always, fear of abandonment develops early in life. It can come from experiencing death or significant loss, neglect, abuse, having unstable relationships with caregivers, like a parent who's in and out of your life, or maybe one of your parents is dating and you get attached to their partner and then they break up, so you get attached to their new partner and then they break up, and you can't really develop secure attachment early on, so you come to associate attachment with abandonment. But abandonment can be kind of a misleading word. This doesn't only have to be a fear of physical abandonment, being left by someone. It can also be a fear of emotional abandonment, not feeling loved or wanted or accepted. You may have grown up in a more stable household and had your physical needs met. Roof over your head, food on the table, pants on your butt. But you may have this fear from not having your emotional needs met consistently or at all. You may have been fortunate in all of those areas and still developed a fear of abandonment from unstable and insecure friendships and early relationships. This fear can also develop later on if you experience significant trauma, betrayal, loss, or other major life changes. You may fear abandonment simply because you think those experiences might repeat themselves, and the loss and disappointment itself is just too painful. But usually the fear of abandonment is so significant and persistent because it instills or reinforces negative self-views. I must have caused this abandonment. I deserve it. I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. I'm not good enough. I'm not capable of a healthy relationship. I'm the problem. Or it can instill or reinforce negative views of others. People are all untrustworthy and unreliable. No one will ever treat me right. All men or women are the same. Everyone leaves. They're the problem. It can also be a little bit of both. So what behaviors does fear of abandonment cause? Now I want to be clear that nothing on this subject is cut and dry, and there's no way to detail every cause and expression of fear of abandonment. But there are some interesting patterns that show up frequently. People who inconsistently got their needs met are likely to have a more fearful and anxious response to this fear of abandonment in their thoughts and behaviors, because they can't be sure when they're going to get their needs met or not. And they may feel like if they do the right things or control the situation in a certain way, they can avoid that abandonment. They're more likely to be hypervigilant and obsessive, overanalyzing their partners or situations to try to recognize when that abandonment is coming and why. They often overattach quickly, and they can become clingy, especially when they feel someone pulling away. Or they might exhibit push-pull behavior, where they push their partner away to try to avoid the pain of abandonment when they feel it coming, but then the pain of loss or loneliness or self-blame causes them to try to pull them back in again. They can also exhibit attention-seeking or manipulative behavior to try to prevent abandonment, especially if those have been successful for them in the past, at least temporarily. Some people also test their partners, where they act out or might do something harmful and then think, well, if they stay with me now, then they must really love me. Or they may test their partners with poor communication, equating their ability to mind read with love. They asked me if I wanted ice cream, and I told them no because I'm trying to eat healthy. But if they don't pick up my favorite flavor anyway because they know that I actually do want it, then they don't love me. And they think I'm fat. Passing one test isn't enough. There are always more tests. So these people may have unreasonably high expectations of their partners, or they may be overly critical of themselves, thinking there's more they should be doing to earn love and avoid abandonment. They may overanalyze their own words and behaviors, fearing any mistakes, or go out of their way to people please and caretake in order to prove their worth. They may ignore their own needs and accept one-sided, codependent, or even abusive relationships. Some of these people have identity issues or very low self-esteem and are dependent on external validation to determine their own self-worth. So they have a constant need for reassurance that's never truly satisfied. Of course, these types of behaviors usually end up pushing people away inadvertently, which reinforces their fear of abandonment and negative self-views. The people-pleasing might not always push someone away, but relationships with partners who take advantage of that and do require that your needs be ignored so that they don't physically or emotionally abandon you will also reinforce those negative self-views. Ooh! Just making sure you're paying attention. Those are some common expressions of fear of abandonment in people who inconsistently got their needs met. But there's a different pattern that emerges from people who rarely, if ever, got their physical or emotional needs met. They tend to be more avoidant and distant. They might still attach quickly, but then once things start to get too emotionally deep and vulnerable, then they can pull away. They try not to get too close and tend to stick to more surface level relationships. They often have less emotional awareness and lack a deep understanding of themselves. They usually find safety and comfort in independence because they've learned that they can't rely on other people for certain needs. And they feel like deep connection leaves them vulnerable to the pain of abandonment. So they often react strongly to real or perceived threats to their independence. They might not have such conscious self-esteem issues, but they often have deeper issues with feeling like they aren't capable of having the connection that they truly seek. When they employ their distancing behaviors and fail to nurture and sustain connection, they reinforce these beliefs. As if that's not difficult enough, the anxious and avoidant types usually attract each other, because these matching issues and fears align with what they expect in a relationship. So those behaviors trigger, reinforce, and worsen the fear of abandonment on both sides. This can lead to them deciding to avoid close relationships altogether. If you have issues you need to resolve before getting into a relationship, I completely support being alone to do that. I do not support being alone as a long-term solution to abandonment issues. Or any issues. Do the work. Figure it out. We may ultimately feel more safe alone, but humans are built for connection. Lacking meaningful connection has serious negative effects on our mental and physical health, even shortening our lifespans, and keeps us from feeling deeper fulfillment in life. Fortunately, these fears can be overcome, and you can learn to be more comfortable with a healthy mixture of independence and close connection. So how do you overcome your fear of abandonment? Like many areas of growth I discuss on this channel, it's going to take a lot of hard work. Sorry, I don't make the rules. For this, I suggest by starting with learning about attachment styles. If you know anything about attachment theory already, you'll know that that's what I've been touching on throughout this video. It's kind of impossible to talk about fear of abandonment without talking about attachment styles. Even this was an overly simplistic explanation of them, but there's a new book coming out in the end of January on this topic that I'm very excited for, so I plan on doing a more thorough attachment theory video after I finish that. In the meantime, I'd highly suggest the book Attached. I've read this book twice, and both times were before I started highlighting in my books. So clearly this is a subject that I'm very interested in, and I found this book in particular to be very noteworthy. I might lose some, I shouldn't do that. I'll put the link in this video's description. It'll also be helpful to work towards gaining a better understanding of your triggers, emotions, and needs, instead of not knowing what you're actually reacting to and pushing blame only onto your partner or defaulting to anger. Therapy is helpful if possible, but if that's not an option for you, I'm definitely a believer of self-discovery if you're truly motivated and committed to it. Then it's important to work on communication and interpersonal effectiveness so you can effectively communicate that new understanding of yourself to your partner and come to better understand them in turn. Together, you can learn how to compromise and come to mutually beneficial resolutions to conflict instead of becoming frantic or detached. It's also crucial that you explore the root causes of your abandonment issues and work on healing from those. Again, therapy is probably your best bet for this, but there are methods of self-discovery that can help you if that's not an option. And like usual, I'm going to urge you to believe that you can change. Your fear of abandonment doesn't have to control your life, and you can have deep, healthy relationships. There are tons of other things you can work on to improve your ability to be in a healthy and secure relationship, and I plan on covering much more in future videos. I think next week's video may be on self-soothing, which will help you cope with the fear of abandonment and many other forms of anxiety, distress, and emotional pain. I'll also have other videos on related relationship topics like attachment styles, interdependence, and codependency. So please subscribe if you're interested in those. Thanks for watching this video. Have a great Halloween or whatever day it is when you're watching this. And I hope to see you in the next one. Peace. Booga booga booga.